She was beautiful, ambitious, in love. 21-year-old Juliana Redding had everything to live for. But on March 15, 2008, she was found brutally strangled in her Santa Monica apartment. The investigation would expose a tangled web of wealth, jealousy, and betrayal involving a powerful doctor, his bitter ex-wife, and a mysterious woman with no apparent motive. More than a decade later, despite a trial and mountains of evidence, Juliana's killer has never been convicted. This is the story of Juliana Redding and the justice that still eludes her. Before we begin, if you appreciate true crime stories told with depth and respect for the victims, please consider subscribing. It truly helps us continue sharing these important cases. Now, let's dive into one of Los Angeles' most controversial unsolved murders. Juliana Redding was born into privilege and love. The daughter of Mark Redding, a successful businessman from Tucson, Arizona, Juliana grew up in a world where opportunities seemed endless. She was stunningly beautiful, the kind of beauty that belonged on magazine covers and movie screens. With long dark hair, piercing eyes, and a radiant smile, Juliana had the look that casting directors dream of. But those who knew her understood that her beauty was just the surface. Juliana was intelligent, driven, and remarkably kind. She loved animals, especially her beloved dog. She was close to her father, who adored her and supported her dreams wholeheartedly. And like countless young women before her, Juliana had a dream: to make it in Hollywood. In 2007, Juliana moved to Los Angeles. She settled into a modest but comfortable apartment in Santa Monica, one of LA's safer, more upscale neighborhoods. She threw herself into the grind of the entertainment industry, taking acting classes, going to auditions, doing modeling shoots, networking at industry events. It was exhausting work, and the rejection was constant. But Juliana was determined. She wasn't just another pretty face chasing fame. She was serious about her craft. And then she met Dr. Munir Uwaydah. Dr. Munir Uwaydah was not your average boyfriend. He was a wealthy, successful medical entrepreneur, a man in his 40s who had built an empire in the healthcare industry. He was sophisticated, charming, and powerful. He moved in circles where money and influence were currency. And when he met Juliana, he was captivated. Their relationship developed quickly. To Juliana, Munir represented security, sophistication, and a world far beyond the struggling actress lifestyle she'd been living. To Munir, Juliana was young, beautiful, and full of life, everything he wanted. But there was a complication, a big one. Munir was going through a bitter, contentious divorce from his ex-wife. The divorce wasn't just messy, it was ugly. There were disputes over money, over assets, over control. And in the middle of all this acrimony, Munir began dating Juliana openly. His ex-wife was not pleased. Friends would later say that the ex-wife was furious about Munir's relationship with Juliana. She saw Juliana as the reason her marriage had fallen apart, even though the relationship had already been crumbling. In her mind, Juliana was the enemy, the other woman, the young, beautiful threat who had stolen her life. But Juliana didn't see herself that way. She was simply in love with a man who had told her his marriage was over. She had no idea that being with Munir Uwaydah would put her life in danger. On the morning of March 15, 2008, a friend of Juliana's went to check on her. Juliana had missed a scheduled appointment, which was completely unlike her. She was reliable, punctual, organized. When she didn't answer her phone or respond to messages, her friend grew concerned. The friend arrived at Juliana's Santa Monica apartment and knocked on the door. No answer. She called out Juliana's name. Nothing. Growing increasingly worried, the friend contacted the apartment manager, who agreed to unlock the door. What they found inside would haunt them forever. Juliana Redding was lying on the floor of her apartment, lifeless. She had been strangled. Her face bore the marks of a violent struggle. Her hands showed defensive wounds. She had fought desperately for her life. The apartment had been ransacked. Drawers were pulled open, belongings were scattered, and it appeared that someone had been searching for something. At first glance, it looked like a robbery gone wrong. But experienced detectives know that staged crime scenes often tell a different story. The Santa Monica Police Department immediately launched a homicide investigation. As detectives began processing the scene, something felt off. The ransacking seemed almost too deliberate, too theatrical. And despite the appearance of a robbery, several valuable items had been left behind. this wasn't a random burglary. This was personal. Detectives began the painstaking work of reconstructing Juliana's final days. They interviewed friends, family, neighbors, and anyone who had contact with her. They analyzed her phone records, her financial transactions, her social media activity. They wanted to know everything about her life, who she knew, who might have wanted to harm her, and why. One name kept surfacing in every conversation: Dr. Munir Uwaydah. As investigators dug into Munir's background, they discovered the bitter divorce, the financial disputes, and the intense animosity between Munir and his ex-wife. They learned that Juliana had been caught in the middle of this toxic situation, whether she realized it or not. But Munir himself seemed genuinely devastated by Juliana's death. He cooperated with police. He answered their questions. He appeared to be grieving. And importantly, he had an alibi for the time of the murder. Still, detectives couldn't shake the feeling that Munir was somehow connected to what had happened. Not necessarily as the killer, but as the reason behind it. Then, they found something that changed everything. Security cameras near Juliana's apartment had captured footage from the day of the murder. Detectives spent hours reviewing the grainy video, looking for anything unusual. And then they saw her. A woman, Asian, dressed casually, walking purposefully toward Juliana's apartment building around the estimated time of death. The woman appeared to glance around nervously, as if checking to see if she was being watched. She entered the building, and then roughly 30 minutes later, she left, moving quickly, head down, clearly in a hurry. Who was she? Detectives ran the footage through facial recognition software and cross-referenced it with known associates of both Juliana and Munir. They checked employee records from Munir's medical businesses. They looked at everyone in his circle. And finally, they found a match. Kelly Soo Park. Kelly Soo Park was a woman in her early 40s who had worked for Dr. Munir Uwaydah in various capacities over the years. She wasn't a nurse or a medical professional. Her role was more administrative, more ambiguous. Those who knew her described her as intensely loyal to Munir, almost obsessively so. She was quiet, unassuming, and seemed to operate in the shadows of his business empire. But why would Kelly Soo Park want to kill Juliana Redding? The two women didn't even know each other. As investigators dug deeper into Kelly's background, they discovered something disturbing. Kelly had a history of violence. She had been involved in altercations before, and most significantly, she had a deep, almost fanatical loyalty to Munir Uwaydah. The theory began to take shape. Kelly had killed Juliana on behalf of someone else, someone who had a motive, someone who wanted Juliana out of the picture. But who? Munir? His ex-wife? Both? The investigation into Kelly Soo Park intensified. Detectives obtained her phone records and discovered that she had been in contact with Munir frequently in the days leading up to the murder. They found evidence that placed her in the vicinity of Juliana's apartment on the day of the killing. They analyzed her financial records and found suspicious transactions. But the most damning evidence was forensic. DNA evidence found under Juliana's fingernails. Evidence that suggested she had scratched her attacker during the struggle was tested. The DNA profile didn't match Kelly Soo Park exactly, but it couldn't rule her out either. The evidence was inconclusive but suggestive. Still, detectives felt they had enough to move forward. In 2010, more than 2 years after Juliana's murder, Kelly Soo Park was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The arrest sent shockwaves through the true crime community. Here was a woman with no apparent personal connection to the victim, accused of committing a brutal murder. The question everyone wanted answered was simple. Why? Kelly Soo Park's trial began in 2013, 5 years after Juliana's death. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office presented what they believed was a compelling case. They showed the jury the security footage of Kelly entering and leaving Juliana's apartment building at the time of the murder. They presented phone records showing communication between Kelly and Munir. They brought in forensic experts to discuss the DNA evidence found under Juliana's fingernails. They argued that Kelly had been hired, either explicitly or implicitly, to eliminate Juliana because she was a problem for Munir, his ex-wife, or both. The prosecution painted a picture of a contract killing, carried out by a woman who was fanatically devoted to her employer and willing to do anything he asked. But the defense had a different story. Kelly Soo Park's attorneys argued that the evidence was entirely circumstantial. Yes, Kelly had been near Juliana's apartment that day, but that didn't prove she had killed her. Yes, she had communicated with Munir, but he was her employer, so that was perfectly normal. And the DNA evidence? Inconclusive at best, and certainly not definitive proof of guilt. The defense also pointed out something critical. There was no murder weapon, no confession, no eyewitness testimony, and no clear motive that directly linked Kelly to Juliana. Why would Kelly risk everything to kill a woman she didn't even know? Without concrete physical evidence tying Kelly to the actual act of murder, the defense argued the prosecution's case was built on speculation and theory, not facts. Mark Redding sat in the courtroom every single day of the trial. He listened to the evidence. He looked at the photos of his daughter. He stared at Kelly Soo Park, the woman accused of taking Juliana from him. And he waited for justice. The trial was emotional, contentious, and exhausting. Witnesses testified. Experts debated forensic evidence. The prosecution and defense sparred over every detail. And then, after weeks of testimony, the case went to the jury. They deliberated for several days. The wait was agonizing for everyone involved. Finally, they returned with a verdict. Not guilty. Kelly Soo Park was acquitted of all charges. The courtroom erupted. Mark Redding was devastated. The prosecution was stunned. And Kelly Soo Park walked out of the courthouse a free woman. But acquittal doesn't mean innocent. It means the prosecution couldn't prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And in the eyes of many who followed the case, Kelly Soo Park got away with murder. So what really happened? Did Kelly kill Juliana? If so, why? Was she acting on orders from Munir Uwaydah? Was his ex-wife involved? Or was there someone else entirely that investigators never discovered? To this day, no one has been convicted of Juliana Redding's murder. The case remains officially unsolved. Dr. Munir Uwaydah has never been charged with any crime related to Juliana's death. He has maintained his innocence and cooperated with investigators. To this day, he insists he had nothing to do with what happened to her. Kelly Soo Park has lived quietly since her acquittal. She has never publicly discussed the case or given her side of the story. And Mark Redding continues to seek justice for his daughter. He has spoken at victim advocacy events. He has pushed for legislative changes to protect young women. He has kept Juliana's memory alive, hoping that one day someone will come forward with the truth. Juliana Redding was just 21 years old when she died. She was full of dreams, full of life, full of love, and someone took that from her. Do you think Kelly Soo Park was guilty? Do you believe Dr. Munir Uwaydah had involvement? Could Juliana's murder have been prevented? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. The Juliana Redding case is a reminder that justice isn't always guaranteed. Sometimes the evidence isn't enough. Sometimes the truth stays hidden. And sometimes families are left with nothing but questions and grief. Mark Redding once said in an interview, "I don't know if I'll ever get justice for my daughter, but I'll never stop trying." Today, Juliana's case remains open. The Santa Monica Police Department still considers it an active investigation. And somewhere out there, someone knows what really happened on March 15th, 2008. Do you believe justice was truly served,